Hi, I'm Mr. Milton, and unfortunately, I'm not in today. So I recorded this to help you learn more about the Missouri Compromise, which is really exciting. It happens when a little territory wants to become a state, and all the drama that ensues. It's going to be exciting, so get strapped in. Let's talk Missouri Compromise. The big question leading up to this, of course, is how does a territory actually become a state? Go ahead, research this. Look at the Constitution, page 164, and the Northwest Ordinance of 1787. Pause me, write it down, figure it out, and we'll come back in a minute. Good job, if you paused me. Now, if you want to become a state, you need to have a few things. This is all supplied by the Northwest Ordinance of 1787. It's pretty much the one thing that those Articles of Confederation actually did right. First, the Congress is going to appoint a territorial governor and judges, your law and your order. Then, once the population gets to be about 5,000, settlers are going to write their own constitution, so they won't be governed directly by Congress. When they get to be about 60,000, they write a state constitution, and Congress gets to approve whether or not it becomes a state. And don't worry, this is all going to become very important as we move forward, so get excited. When Missouri wants to become a state, it gets the 660,000 population in 1819, but there's a big problem that's going to make this be like, well, everyone's sticking point. The big question is slavery. Is Missouri going to be a free state or a slave state? These terms, free states and slave states, they were the terms that they used to describe whether or not the state had slavery or did not. The Constitution doesn't actually ever directly mention slavery, unless you're looking at some of the ones that, like the one in your textbook where it have a heading that says slavery. In the textbook, it doesn't actually doesn't mention it at all. It says things like those held in bondage, but it won't actually mention slavery. But it does have a few things to say about the institution, one of them being, this is Article 1, Section 9, Clause 1. The migration or importation of such persons as any of the states now existing shall think proper to admit shall not be prohibited by Congress prior to the year 1808, but a tax or duty may be imposed on such importation not exceeding $10 for each person. Okay. Now, again, they're talking here about slavery, but they're not saying it directly because, well, they don't want to, I guess, acknowledge it at that point. They would use euphemisms around. This is kind of what that's saying. While the U.S. Constitution can tax the slave trade, Congress may not attempt to outlaw this peculiar institution, at least until, wait for it, 1808. Hey, wait a second. What year does Missouri want to come into the Union? If you thought 1819, nice job. So, slavery was very much ingrained in the Southern economy, and while not everyone owned slaves, and you'll find that there's a sizable population in the South that does not, most saw it as vital to the economy. The northern states had pretty much abolished slavery by 1804. Again, there's still some slaves in the North, or enslaved workers in the North, but in general, northern states had abolished it by about 1804. Southerners feared that Northerners were going to end the slave trade and abolish slavery if they have the votes. So they're very much looking at ensuring that there's not no more free states than them. As far as Northerners fear that the Southerners would extend slavery into the new territories. As we have the Louisiana Purchase, we have more and more states, territories becoming states, and this could extend slavery and potentially extend it forever. Now, could either the North or the South actually pass a law to do this? That's a good question. I'm so glad I asked. Hey, how does a bill become a law? I know you talked about this when I was gone. Think about it. Did you get it? The needing to go through the two bodies, the Senate and the House both have to approve it. Then it goes to the president to sign it. It's very exciting. Good job. Now, again, could Congress actually end slavery? Let's go to the map. We're going to look at the balance of power between the free states and the slave states, and this is where you take over. What I would like you to do, so first what I'd like you to do is write down here, what years did the states enter into the Union? Then, how many reps did they have in 1818 or 1819? Some of the states came in 1819, so you're going to use that. Then, whether or not they are a free or a slave state. You can go ahead and shade this into the color, so this way it's a lot easier to use. After that, you are going to write down the number of representatives of slave states and from free states. There are questions on the back of this. Make sure you do answer those questions based upon the data that you have collected and what you have noticed. Then, what I'd like you to do on this map, actually label the states and shade in the states based upon if they were free states and if they were slave states. And tomorrow, we'll talk more about how this compromise actually worked. So get excited. Thanks, and have a great day.